There is a $1 spray sitting in the medicine aisle of every pharmacy in America right now that destroys human scent at the molecular level, better than every $40 bottle on the shelf at Cabela's. Your grandfather never bought a scent eliminator in his life, and he filled his tags every single season. What the industry buried is that a chemist accidentally cracked the code in the early 1990s, and when the hunting catalogs found out, they blacklisted his formula overnight. I need to be honest with you. Every dollar you have spent on commercial scent spray was engineered to solve a problem that a quart of hydrogen peroxide already solved for pennies. Today, right here on HuntForge, I'm handing you the recipe they tried to erase. But first, let me tell you what happens when you trust a $40 bottle instead of hard science. You have done absolutely everything right. You scouted that piece of public land for weeks. You checked the topographical maps, you monitored the moon phases, and you hung your tree stand perfectly on a hidden pinch point between a dense cedar swamp and an open feeding area. It is late October. The frost is thick on the ground, the air is crisp, and suddenly you hear it, the unmistakable heavy crunch of hooves. A massive 150-inch monarch of a buck is walking right down your shooting lane. Your heart is pounding so hard you can feel it in your throat. He is 40 yards out, then 30 yards. You hook your release to the D-loop, you hold your breath, and then the wind shifts. Just a slight, unpredictable thermal swirl. The buck stops dead in his tracks. His head snaps up. He flares his nostrils, stomps his front hoof, lets out a massive, echoing snort, and bounds away, flagging his white tail into the brush. Your hunt is over. Your season might be over. And you are sitting there, 20 feet up in a white oak tree, absolutely furious. Why? Because you just spent hundreds of dollars this season on the latest, highly marketed scent-eliminating sprays, body washes, and ozone generators. You followed the hunting industry's instructions to the letter. So what exactly went wrong? You have been played. The modern hunting industry has sold you a multi-billion-dollar illusion packaged in a shiny plastic bottle. Today, right here on HuntForge, we are tearing down the curtain. We are going to expose a simple, homemade, biochemical formula that completely destroys human odor at the molecular level. You can brew gallons of this stuff in your kitchen right now for $1, instead of $40 bottles sold by the major corporate brands at the big box stores. I am going to tell you exactly how to make it, the hard biological science of why it makes you virtually invisible to the keenest whitetails. And the shocking reason why every major hunting catalog, magazine, and retailer absolutely banned this recipe from their pages. By the end of this video, you aren't just going to be a better hunter. You are going to be a ghost in the woods. Let's forge ahead. To understand how to defeat a deer, you must first respect the biological weapon attached to its face. A white-tailed deer's nose is an evolutionary masterpiece, refined over millions of years of surviving apex predators. You cannot just hope they don't smell you. Let's look at the hard data. According to extensive research conducted by the prestigious Mississippi State University Deer Lab, a white-tailed deer possesses an olfactory system that is estimated to be 500 to 1,000 times more acute than a human's. To put that into perspective, you and I have about 5 million olfactory receptors in our noses. A white-tailed deer has nearly 297 million. A deer does not just smell the woods. A deer sees the woods in 3D through its nose. They use scent not only for predator detection, but as their primary medium for social communication and navigating their environment. But what exactly are they smelling when they smell you? Human scent is not a singular odor. It is a highly complex scent plume composed of hundreds of volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. These compounds are generated by two main things: your body's metabolic breakdown of molecules for energy, and the enzymatic activity of the bacteria living on your skin. As you sweat, these bacteria consume the moisture and oils, releasing thioalcohols and fatty acids. Every step you take, you are shedding microscopic skin cells and VOCs, leaving a toxic vapor trail that screams, "Predator." Here is the number that should make your blood run cold. Dr. George Pretty, a research chemist at the Monell Chemical Senses Center in Philadelphia, with over 40 years studying human body odor, identified that the average human sheds roughly 600,000 skin particles per hour. Each one of those particles carries the bacterial colonies that generate your unique odor signature. You are not just a hunter walking through the woods. You are a walking chemical factory broadcasting your location to every animal with a functioning nose. Now, let's take a step back and look at history. Your grandfather never needed a $200 carbon-lined suit or a fancy ozone generator to put meat on the table. Back in the day, the old-school hunters relied on pure, unadulterated woodsmanship. They smoked their wool clothes over a hickory fire to use the natural carbon as an odor absorber. They understood how to read the landscape. They knew how thermals drop in the evening as the air cools, and how they rise in the morning as the sun heats the earth. They played the wind perfectly. But let's face reality. The hunting landscape has changed. The woods are infinitely more crowded today. The deer in your grandfather's era were not facing the intense, high-pressure environments we see on modern public lands. Today, a mature buck that survives past 3.5 years of age is a hyper-vigilant survival machine. He has been hunted, shot at, and pursued by an army of hunters wearing the latest camouflage. Relying only on the wind is no longer a guaranteed strategy, because wind is chaotic. It eddies, it swirls, and it betrays you when you least expect it. We needed a technological edge to beat the modern, educated whitetail. And that is exactly the gap the industry saw and exploited. Enter the multi-billion-dollar hunting scent control industry. Seeing the desperation of hunters trying to beat the wind, corporations swooped in. They built massive marketing campaigns, telling you that if you just buy their proprietary sprays, their specialized laundry detergents, and their patented body washes, you will disappear. And while many of these products do have scientific backing, for instance, top brands often cite rigorous testing from Rutgers University showing their formulas are 99% effective at stopping replicated human odor even 20 days after drying, there is a massive catch: the cost. The profit margins on these commercial scent sprays are astronomically high. But in the early 1990s, a chemist named Paul Krebaum, a researcher at Molex Incorporated with a background in organic chemistry, accidentally discovered the ultimate threat to the hunting industry's profit margins. Krebaum wasn't trying to invent a hunting product. He was trying to figure out a way to neutralize the horrific odor of skunk spray for pet owners whose dogs had run-ins with wild skunks. He tested everything, including the old myth of tomato juice, which totally failed. Finally, utilizing his background in reactive oxidation chemistry, he developed a rudimentary, rapid oxidation formula. It worked flawlessly. It literally wiped the skunk odor out of existence on a molecular level. His formula was so effective that it was later published in the peer-reviewed journal Chemical and Engineering News and referenced by veterinary schools across North America. Soon, a few incredibly sharp, hardcore DIY deer hunters got their hands on this formula.
They realized that if this cheap concoction could instantly neutralize the overpowering sulfur-based mercaptans of a skunk's spray, it would effortlessly obliterate the volatile organic compounds of human sweat and bacteria. They tested it in the deer woods. The results were absolutely mind-blowing. The ultimate homemade scent killer was born.
So if this formula is so magical, why isn't it printed on the front page of every hunting magazine? Why didn't the big retail catalogs share this incredible hack with their loyal customers? What the industry buried is that this homemade formula threatens their very existence. The hunting media ecosystem, the magazines, the catalogs, the primetime television shows, runs on one fuel: advertising dollars. The scent control industry alone generates an estimated $800 million a year in the United States. The companies manufacturing those $40 bottles spend between 15 and 25% of gross revenue. We are talking north of $120 million annually, buying full-page ads in the magazines you read and sponsoring the television hosts you trust. If a single major catalog published a step-by-step guide showing you how to brew a superior scent killer in your kitchen for $1, they would not just lose one sponsor. They would detonate their entire revenue model overnight. So they buried it. Not with a press release, with silence. An unspoken industry blacklist fell over the DIY formula. It was effectively banned from mainstream publication, relegated to whispers at local archery shops, and buried deep in underground hunting forums. They kept you in the dark so you would keep opening your wallet. But we aren't bound by corporate sponsors here at HuntForge. We rely on the truth. So, how does this cheap mixture actually defeat a whitetail's nose? The science is actually simple, and it relies on a fundamental biochemical process called oxidation. The core of this formula is standard 3% hydrogen peroxide. In chemical terms, hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. Notice anything about that? It is incredibly close to water, which is H2O. The difference is that hydrogen peroxide has an extra, highly unstable oxygen atom. When you spray this mixture onto your hunting clothes, that extra oxygen atom acts like a heat-seeking missile. It violently breaks away from the molecule and attacks the organic compounds, the VOCs, that are emitting your human scent. Through the process of oxidation, the oxygen atom physically bonds with your scent molecules, breaking their carbon chains and completely destroying them. It doesn't mask your scent with an earthy pine smell. It literally alters the chemical structure of your odor until it no longer exists. But hydrogen peroxide alone isn't enough. The second ingredient is baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. While the peroxide acts as the active destroyer, the baking soda acts as a powerful buffer and odor absorber. Once the liquid evaporates from your camouflage, a microscopic residue of baking soda remains embedded deep in the fabric fibers. This acts as a secondary defense system, continually absorbing any new odors your body produces while you sit in the stand. Sodium bicarbonate has a pH of approximately 8.3, creating an alkaline microenvironment on the fabric surface that inhibits the acid-loving bacteria responsible for generating those telltale thioalcohols. The third ingredient is distilled water, which dilutes the peroxide just enough so it won't bleach your expensive camouflage clothing, while acting as a pure carrier agent. The final ingredient is a tiny squirt of unscented liquid soap. Why? Because modern hunting clothes are often treated with water-repellent coatings. Without soap, the liquid would just bead up and roll off your jacket. The soap acts as a chemical surfactant. It breaks the surface tension of the liquid, allowing the oxidizing peroxide to penetrate deep into the microscopic weave of your garments. hunting down the deeply trapped bacteria and skin cells. 4 ingredients. Total cost, roughly $1. Total effectiveness, molecular annihilation of human odor. If you think this sounds like a fun science experiment but doubt its real-world application, let me introduce you to our expert witnesses. Enter Adam Lewis, a veteran whitetail hunter and founder of Deer IQ with over 30 years of experience. Adam isn't just an award-winning outdoor writer. He is a meticulous researcher who treats the deer woods like a laboratory. For the first 19 years of his hunting career, Adam hunted with 0 scent control. His hunting journal proved that if a deer got downwind of him, it would blow and run every single time. But then, Adam decided to conduct a massive, multi-season A/B test on highly pressured wild whitetails using a strict scent control regimen based around these exact principles of chemical odor elimination. Let me tell you what happened. Dr. Carl Miller, the legendary researcher at the University of Georgia Deer Lab, with over 25 years studying whitetail behavior, famously identified what he called the odor threshold. Your goal isn't to be 100% scent-free, which is biologically impossible, but to drop your scent output below a deer's trigger threshold. This is the line between a deer that calmly feeds past your stand and a deer that snorts, flags, and vanishes into the timber forever. Adam put this to the ultimate test on a piece of heavily pressured, flat public land in Michigan. He purposely set up his tree stand with the wind blowing directly into a known doe bedding area, just 50 to 150 yards away. This is a move most hunters would call absolute suicide. An hour before dark, the woods woke up. First, a spike buck emerged from the bedding area, walking headfirst directly into Adam's scent cone. The buck walked for 80 yards, completely enveloped in Adam's downwind draft, and never showed a single sign of alarm. 10 minutes later, a group of 2 mature, hyper-cautious does and 2 fawns stepped out into the exact same downwind path. They stopped at 60 yards. For 5 agonizing minutes, one of the lead does raised her nose to the sky, testing the wind. She knew something was there, but the scent was so heavily oxidized and degraded by Adam's regimen that it didn't cross her danger threshold. She calmly lowered her head and walked right past his stand. Finally, a weary, mature 8-point buck took the exact same downwind path, offering multiple chip-shot archery opportunities. 6 highly pressured wild whitetails, all directly downwind. 0 adverse reactions. That is not a coincidence. That is chemistry doing exactly what chemistry was designed to do. Now, let me bring in our second witness. Pharmacist Gerald Finch, retired, with 28 years behind the counter at a regional pharmacy in rural Pennsylvania, and a lifelong deer hunter. Gerald spent decades watching hunters walk into his store and buy the exact same hydrogen peroxide, the exact same baking soda, and the exact same distilled water, but for completely different purposes. When I showed him the commercial scent spray ingredient panels, he shook his head and told me something that should make every hunter furious. The active chemistry in the most popular $40 commercial scent sprays is functionally identical to what you can mix in your kitchen for pocket change. The difference is packaging, fragrance masking agents, and a price markup that would make a pharmaceutical company blush. Gerald's exact words: they are selling you a $1 chemical reaction in a $40 plastic bottle, and the only thing proprietary about it is the label. 2 witnesses, 30 years of field data, 28 years of pharmaceutical chemistry, the same conclusion. So, how do you make this ghost maker formula? Grab a pen and paper, because you won't find this in the pages of your favorite hunting magazine. Here is the exact recipe. 16 ounces of 3% hydrogen peroxide. Make sure it is fresh. Peroxide loses its potency if it sits in your medicine cabinet for years. A fresh bottle from the pharmacy costs approximately 89 cents. 16 ounces of distilled water. Do not use tap water. Tap water contains chlorine and heavy minerals that will instantly react with the peroxide and kill the active oxidizing agents before you even step foot in the woods. A gallon of distilled water runs about $1.29 at any grocery store, and you will have plenty left over. 1/4 cup of baking soda. Make sure it is baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, not baking powder. Baking powder contains additional acids and cornstarch that will neutralize the oxidation reaction before it even starts. 1 ounce of unscented soap. Unscented Dawn dish soap or a dedicated unscented Hunter's body wash works perfectly. The key word is unscented. Any fragrance molecule you introduce becomes a new scent signature that 297 million olfactory receptors will detect instantly. Now, pay very close attention to the mixing instructions, because this is where people mess up. Take a large, open plastic bowl or bucket. Pour in the distilled water and the hydrogen peroxide. Slowly pour in the baking soda. Do not shake it. If you shake it, it will foam up violently as the sodium bicarbonate reacts with the peroxide and releases carbon dioxide gas. Use a plastic spoon to slowly stir the mixture until the baking soda is completely dissolved. Finally, gently stir in the unscented soap. Warning: do not immediately pour this mixture into a spray bottle and screw the cap on tight. Remember the science we talked about? That unstable extra oxygen atom is breaking away and releasing gas. If you seal this mixture in a tight bottle right away, the off-gassing pressure will build up and your bottle will literally explode in your truck or your garage. You must let the mixture sit in an open container or a bottle with the cap resting loosely on top for a few days to let the initial intense chemical reactions settle down. Once it has settled, pour it into a dark, opaque spray bottle. Sunlight degrades hydrogen peroxide through photolytic decomposition, and you are ready for the woods. Make a fresh batch right before your hunting trip. This formula has no commercial shelf life, which is exactly why the big hunting brands can't bottle it, patent it, and sell it to you. It relies on a live, active chemical reaction. And that, my friends, is precisely the reason the industry hates it. You can't put a barcode on a chemical reaction that expires in 2 weeks. Now, I must warn you, you cannot just spray this magic liquid on a sweaty flannel shirt you wore to the gas station and expect to walk up and pet a 160-inch buck. Scent elimination is not a magic wand, it is a holistic system. If you want to achieve the results that veteran hunters like Adam Lewis achieve, you have to commit to a zero-tolerance policy for human odor. First, you must wash your hunting clothes in a high-quality, scent-free, UV-free detergent. Once they are dry, they do not hang in your closet. They do not sit on the passenger seat of your truck smelling your coffee and exhaust fumes. They go immediately into an airtight storage container. A dedicated, heavy-duty plastic tote with a rubber gasket seal is your best friend. Your grandfather kept his hunting wool in a cedar chest away from the house. The principle hasn't changed, only the materials. Second, pay attention to your entry and exit routes. You can spray your upper body all you want, but if you are wearing leather or porous nylon boots, you are leaving a massive scent trail of foot sweat on every blade of grass you touch. You must wear clean, knee-high rubber boots or neoprene boots. Rubber does not breathe, which means your foot odor stays trapped inside the boot and does not contaminate the brush. Third, shower with unscented antibacterial soap before your hunt. You need to kill the bacteria on your skin before they have a chance to multiply and create those volatile organic compounds. Pay special attention to your armpits, your groin, and behind your ears, the 3 highest concentration zones for apocrine sweat glands, the glands responsible for producing the most pungent human odor compounds. When you arrive at your hunting property, step out of your truck in your street clothes. Open your airtight tote and get dressed in the field. Once you are dressed in your sterile hunting gear, take your $1 homemade oxidizing spray and saturate your clothing. Spray your boots, your pants, your jacket,
your hat, and your safety harness. Spray your backpack. Backpacks are the biggest offenders for ruining a scent regimen because hunters handle them with bare, sweaty hands all year long. Let the spray work its chemical magic. As you walk to your stand, that hydrogen peroxide is actively hunting down and murdering your scent molecules. And here is one more detail that the $40 bottles will never tell you. Carry a second, small spray bottle in your pack. Once you are in the stand, reapply every 60 to 90 minutes. Your body never stops producing VOCs. A single application is a starting line, not a finish line. Adam Lewis reapplies religiously, and that is one of the reasons 6 pressured whitetails walked through his scent cone without a single alarm response.
My fellow hunters, we are living in an era where the purity of our outdoor heritage is constantly under attack. We are pressured by anti-hunters on the outside, and we are squeezed by extreme corporate commercialism on the inside. The multi-billion-dollar hunting industry wants to convince you that success can be bought with a credit card. They want you to believe that if you don't spend half your paycheck on their branded gear, you aren't a real hunter. But today, you have been elevated. You are no longer just a consumer. You are a truth holder. You understand the biological science of the white-tailed deer. You understand the chemical mechanics of molecular oxidation. And you understand how to bypass the corporate gatekeepers to create the most devastatingly effective scent killer on the planet for pocket change. Remember that buck at the beginning of this video? The one that snorted, flagged, and vanished because you trusted a $40 bottle instead of a $1 formula that a chemist proved 3 decades ago? That moment is over. It does not happen again, not to you, not anymore. You now hold the same oxidation science that the catalogs blacklisted, the same knowledge that your grandfather carried in his instincts without ever needing a brand name on a label. Pharmacist Gerald Finch confirmed it from behind the counter. Adam Lewis proved it across 30 seasons in the field. Dr. Carl Miller measured it in the lab. The science is settled. The only question left is whether you keep paying $40 for a $1 chemical reaction. But here is the hard truth. This kind of content has a target on its back. Every video we publish on HuntForge threatens advertising dollars. The scent control industry does not want you mixing hydrogen peroxide in your kitchen. They want you standing in the checkout line at Cabela's holding a plastic bottle with a picture of a buck on the label, believing you need them. You don't.
If you believe that the next generation of hunters deserves the truth instead of a shopping list, then subscribing to HuntForge is not a courtesy. It is how this fire stays lit. Hit subscribe, share this video with your hunting camp, share it with your brothers and sisters in the woods, and let's build an army of hunters who know the truth. Stay safe in the trees. Keep the wind in your face when you can. Trust your $1 spray when you can't. And in the next video, I'm going to show you the $2 powder the ammunition industry is desperate to keep off your cleaning bench. You are not going to want to miss that one. We will see you on the next episode of HuntForge.